field goal.
Hi, David.
Hi, David. Hi, Andreas.
Okay.
This brings us to our Q&A and panel session. Just to introduce the panelists and our special guests. We have joining us today David Matas. David Matas is an international human rights lawyer based in Winnipeg, Manitoba, Canada. He has produced 12 books, including with co-author David Kilgour, Bloody Harvest, The Killing of Falun Gong for Their Organs, 2009, and with co-editor Torsten Trey, State Organs, Transplant Abuse in China, 2012. He is a co-founder with David Kilgour and Ethan Gutman of the International Coalition to End Transplant Abuse in China. David Matas is a member of the Order of Canada. He was nominated for the Nobel Peace Prize in 2010 for his work on forced organ harvesting in China. Please welcome David Matas.
Thank you. Thank you.
Our second panelist is Dr. Andreas Weber, MD specialist in trauma surgery and orthopedics, Deputy Director for the Europe with the Doctors Against Forced Organ Harvesting organization, expert in the Health Committee of the Ministry of Health, 20th session of the German Federal Parliament, former member of a surgical organ transplantation team of the DSO, German Organ Transplantation Foundation, and is an employee also involved in the allocation of donor organs and the composition of organ transplant teams for North Rhine-Westphalia, NRW, Germany. Please welcome Dr. Andreas Weber. Our third panelist is Jessica Ruscio. Jessica Ruscio, PSYD, is the mental health advisor for Doctors Against Forced Organ Harvesting and a board member. Doctors Against Forced Organ Harvesting is a nonprofit organization with a mission to educate the medical community and the public about illicit organ harvesting practices in China and related issues. The organization has been nominated for the Nobel Peace Prize 3 times and is recipient of the 2019 Mother Teresa Memorial Award. Dr. Russo is a clinical psychologist with a private practice in Philadelphia and is a volunteer faculty member with the Department of Psychiatry and Human Behavior at Jefferson Health in Philadelphia. She has spoken and written extensively on the Chinese Communist Party's forced organ harvesting of Falun Gong practitioners and other prisoners of conscience. Please welcome Jessica Ruscio. And our last panelist, who is also the producer of the film today, is Cindy Song. Cindy was born and raised in China, immigrated to Canada in 2008. She was a former China monitor with Lawyers' Rights Watch Canada, which is a consultant to the United Nations Economic and Social Council. Please welcome Cindy Song. And we also have a special guest today, Sharon Grayson.
Thank you. It's not appropriate to, but thank you. Thank you very much. I appreciate it.
So we also have a special guest, Sharon Grayson, who has lived on White Rock as a resident, business owner, and community leader for 35 years. Oh, shut up? Yeah. Okay. Okay, this started off our first question. So this is a question for David Matas.
The lady has a question.
Yep.
Yeah.
many people have resigned from the CCP. Is joining the CCP a voluntary situation, or if you're a citizen, are you automatically part of that system, or how does that work?
Well, that's a good question. In China, everyone, when you're starting from the elementary school, when school age, you have to be young pioneer for communism. When you're middle school, you have to use league number. When you grow up, then you can choose to join a party. It's not everyone can join a party, but everyone has to be a young pioneer, use league. So basically, everybody, if you're educated in the school, then you will be part of a communist affiliate organization. So if you read, communism actually came from Marxism, from German and Russia, but not traditionally Chinese. If you read a Communist Manifesto written by Karl Marx, he said very clearly, the ultimate purpose, ultimate mission of communism is to eliminate all kinds of faith in God. It doesn't matter how you worship your God or which religion you call yourself, but all kinds of faith in God, they declare they want to eliminate. So that's basically what communism is about. So when the communists took China used to have long history, 5,000 year history, and there's Buddhism, Taoism, and various kinds of religions, and the people they took different forms, but they all encourage people to be good. So people generally have reverence to the heaven, they have pay attention to their moral characters. But when the communists took over, the first thing they do is to kill 3 million religious personnel, from different religions, from Catholic, from Christian, from Buddhism, from Taoism, total 3 million. That's in 1951. That's what they did. So after that, there's rounds and rounds of political persecution, and they indoctrinate society with atheism and materialism, with Marxism, and also everybody, if you are part of society, you have to go to school, and you have to vow to give your whole life to the communism causes. So that's basically what about.
Is it possible to be a little louder, please? So we can hear better?
Thank you.
Cindy, that mic isn't working.
Oh, okay.
Let's talk louder.
Okay, I will be louder.
Thank you.
Sorry, I didn't realize the mic doesn't work, sorry.
We'll talk louder. Okay, so the first question
Oh, that works.
is
That
for
works now.
David Matus. Can you enlighten us to what recent legislation in Canada and also what the province of BC can do in terms of forced organ harvesting?
Sure. There has been recent legislation, in 2022, which is about 3 years ago, which made complicity in organ transplant abuse abroad an extraterritorial crime. I mean, obviously from the beginning, killing someone in Canada for their organs was a crime, but it used to be if you went abroad and were involved in killing someone for their organs, it was not an offense in Canada, and if you go to China, it's not a prosecutable offense there. The default provision in the criminal code for all offenses is territorial. The crime has to be committed in Canada to be prosecutable. There are some exceptions, war crimes, crimes against humanity, and so on, but complicity in forced organ harvesting abroad used not to be an extraterritorial crime. There was proposed legislation shortly after the report that David Kilburn and I came out to make forced organ harvesting abroad an extraterritorial crime. There was a private member's bill from Boris Wisniewski, Erwin Cutler, the Liberal side, Garnet Chenius, from the Conservative side, and finally there was a private member's bill in the Senate that went through 3 different parliaments before it got passed, and so the whole effort took more than 10 years, but it was just recently passed. And I and David Kilburn made submissions going through Parliament, and one of the things we suggested is, in addition to having an extraterritorial crime, we needed mandatory reporting of health professionals to the Health Administration system of transplant tourism, because otherwise nobody would know, other than people subject to confidentiality, that the crime had occurred. I mean, obviously, when you come back from abroad from a transplant, you're going to need medical care, you're going to need anti-rejection drugs. And so the health system knows about transplant tourism, but the health system generally is subject to patient professional confidentiality. And so the system of enforcement of transplant tourism laws would have no knowledge of complicity in transplant abuse abroad, unless there's some form of reporting. So we proposed a mandatory reporting provision in the federal law as it was going through Parliament, and the Senate accepted that amendment. But then the House of Commons stripped it from the bill on the basis that it was provincial jurisdiction, and the bill passed without mandatory reporting. We accordingly then had a bill which set up a prohibition in principle, but made it unenforceable in practice. And we had to go to the provinces to get enforcement. We wrote every single province to ask them to enact that legislation. On the whole, they were unresponsive. So then we started looking for individual members of legislative assemblies in the various provinces to put forward such a bill of mandatory reporting. And there's a couple of MLAs in British Columbia that expressed, I mean, they haven't promised to do it, they haven't done it, but at least they've shown some interest in it, Anna Kindi and Dallas Brody. And so we've been in touch with them and given them the background and communicating to them the need for this sort of legislation. My own view is that once it gets proposed, it's likely to pass. I can't see a lot of opposition to it. And once it's passed by one province, it's likely to be picked up by the others. So we get caught in a vicious circle here. People don't do anything about the problem because they don't know about it, and they don't know about it because they don't do anything about it. And we have to break through that vicious circle, and I think there's some prospect in British Columbia of that happening. So that's my answer.
Perfect, thank you. Similar question for Jessica. What is the U.S. Congress doing to combat forced organ harvesting?
It's a little bit hard for me to understand you, so if I understand the question correctly, what is the legislation in the Congress regarding the Stop Forced Organ Harvesting Act, is that right?
Yeah, what is the U.S. Congress doing to combat forced organ harvesting?
I'm sorry, I'm not quite getting it.
Yeah, maybe I can repeat it because I certainly heard it. The question is, what is the U.S. Congress doing about forced organ harvesting?
Yes. Okay, so there are 3 bills now, 3 that have been introduced in the House. 2 of them are getting some traction. The most traction is coming from one called the Falun Gong Protection Act. It was introduced and passed in the House this year, and it's also introduced in the Senate. So this bill is actually calling for a reporting feature, so we understand exactly what's going on in China when it comes to transplant, a sanctioning feature, so when we identify those people who seem to be responsible and highly involved in this, there will be sanctions placed upon them. And then the most important thing, I think, for the United States is that there is a requirement in there that we will no longer comply with China when it comes to transplant, because right now we are really helping them to be as successful as they are in this massive crime against humanity. Because we train Chinese physicians who will likely go back and commit these murders, because we know the voluntary donation rate is incredibly low. It's about 0.03%, which is only just 300,000 people. We also have medical supply companies and pharmaceutical companies that are providing materials for China's transplant. And of course, we have patients who are lured by the short wait times. If they can get a heart in 2 weeks, and they have to wait months or years in the US, and maybe even die waiting, they're going to go to China. So we want to protect all of these people who are involved. Unfortunately, the transplant system generally has been very reluctant to acknowledge and come forward about what's happening. That's not true in every case, but there is a lot of resistance there. So this bill becomes that much more important because it says you are required to not be involved with China in this way.
Thank you for that. Dr. Andres, similar question. Can you enlighten us what is happening in Europe?
So thank you for this question. So if I got it right, it's about the situation, the legal situation in Europe. Is this correct?
Yes.
Yeah, all right, thank you. So, so in Europe, you have basically a collection of sovereign countries, more or less, let's say. So Europe is organized, for example, in the Eurotransplant zone, which consists of 8 different countries, and there's only one country having a specific law against forced organ harvesting in connection to China. This is Belgium since 2019. And it's called the Law on Trade of Human Organs, and it severely punishes organ trafficking. And the fines go up to 20 years in prison. Basically, we had a EU resolution in 2013 about forced organ harvesting in China, where the EU condemned forced organ harvesting, especially on Falun Gong practitioners in China, and it demanded an immediate end to it. And so Italy and Belgium became the only countries within the Europe region who installed laws. In Italy, it's the law against trafficking in organs. It prohibits organ trafficking, especially from China, and also includes to stop forced organ harvesting on Falun Gong practitioners and punishes up to 12 years. Recently, also in 2022, just like in Canada, but also in 2021, the United Kingdom passed amendments, and in 2021 it was an amendment to the Medicine and Medical Devices Bill, which aimed to protect Great Britain's medical institutions and medical practitioners from becoming unwittingly complicit in China's state-sanctioned forced organ harvesting. And in 2022, the amendment to the Healthcare Act of 2022 prohibited even commercial organ tourism to China. Just lately, in 2024, we had the Human Tissue Act passed in Ireland, but that only was about that it has to be consented into every aspect of organ donation or organ transplantation. And if there is no consent to it, then the Irish people are not allowed to buy organs or to receive organs. So in Germany, the situation is kind of, let's call it loose. We are together with the Eurotransplant zone, and organ trafficking is only forbidden within Germany, whereas we can do basically exchange organs with the Eurotransplant zone. But if it comes to organ trafficking in China or driving to China to buy an organ, it's